I was totally right about Mizzy, completely right, because this this cleavage that has opened up between mainstream British culture and the subcultures, as in the product of multiculturalism, is now bearing fruit. You can see where this is all coming from. So yesterday, I did, or not yesterday, on Monday I think it was, I did a live stream when Mizzy became the current thing. Just talking about it, saying, what does Mizzy reveal about London and more broadly this country in general? And I do suggest that you go and watch it because I'm so totally on the money. And then Mizzy just came out and essentially just said everything that I said he would say, right? So I was arguing that, look, Mizzy doesn't really understand morality in the way we understand morality, right? He's not plugged into the mainstream British moral consensus. He has a separate moral consensus, a multicultural, a subcultural moral consensus, and he doesn't recognize ours. And he's got no particular reason to recognize ours because we are so pathetically weak. He doesn't respect that. He respects strength, and he literally says this in his interview with Piers Morgan. He doesn't respect us because we don't demonstrate strength. And his pranks themselves are predicated, I'm sure you saw the videos,
Yes.
right? They're predicated on the idea that there is a violent youth culture of which the bearers of this culture are a large portion of them are young black men. So they're not young black women, they're not older black men, they're not like recently arrived Africans, but they are indigenous London immigrants, right? The children of immigrants. And they've grown up in London and they have a certain kind of culture, and Mizzy knows what this culture is, right? And he even makes reference to, like, I didn't go around stabbing people. Oh, really? Why did you say that? Why wasn't it something else? You didn't go around knocking on doors and asking people if they want to join the Mormon faith. Because that's not a feature of that culture. And and he knows that you know. And he also knows that you think he's armed with a knife, and he knows that you aren't. That's why the pranks work as they do. And so when he goes up to someone and says, do you want to die? I can make you die right now. He knows that he's put in their mind, oh, here is a man bearing a certain kind of culture who's been born and raised in London probably, and has his hands in his pockets, probably has a knife. And so you have to now live in fear of your own life during the interaction that you have, because you're probably dealing with a lunatic who is fine with stabbing strangers, right? That's what is predicated, that's what's presumed in these interactions. And I was, of course, right about this. And so, anyway, today or yesterday, it was revealed that Mizzy was fined £365 in total over his pranks. It was £200 initially, but then he had to pay, like, £80
Court costs and
court
victim
costs,
surcharge.
yeah. Unbelievably low amount. £365.
I'm amazed it was that high. I'm amazed he got fined.
Yeah.
I'm amazed he got a 2-year court order.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed it all took something like 36 hours. For our system at the moment, that's fantastic.
You could tell that the system could see a massive amount of public outrage and was just like, oh, we better do something about this. So they, female police officer went and gingerly arrested him. It looked like it was staged with the cameras, and they've taken him in, given him the lightest slap on the wrist that he could have, and he's been banned from posting any content on social media without the express permission of the people in his videos, and entering any private residential property without permission for 2 years. Now, they're going to be like, well, wait a minute, isn't he banned from not entering people's property without permission? The difference is, normally that's a civil charge of trespassing, and this would be a criminal charge. So he is technically not allowed, but it would be a civil case otherwise. The judge is a very, very new judge, Judge Charlotte Crangle. We get to the BBC one. This is a brand new judge. She's only been there for like a month. So, fresh female judge who gave him this. She ordered him to pay £200 with a surcharge of £80 and costs of £85. He's going to learn nothing from this.
Well, the judge said he's very intelligent. He's got a good future ahead of him.
Yeah.
It's just that liberal, wishy-washy rubbish we've been getting for 30, 40, 50 years from our court system.
I mean, the fact that he doesn't seem to share our morality is totally unempathetic to the victims of his pranks. And I mean, it's not unfair to call it a reign of terror. He has been terrorizing people. That's what he's doing. The joke is that he puts them in fear for their lives. And they know it, and everyone watching it knew it, and that's why it was such a big deal. That's why everyone hated it.
Young black men are stabbing people to death in London almost daily.
Yeah.
There tend to be other young black men, but not always.
No.
So if you've got a young black man in front of you who's pretending to have a knife or saying, I'm going to kill you, do you want to die? You're bound to fear for your life. And on top of that, you're thinking to yourself, do I hit him? Or he's black? Will I be classed as racist if I smack him one? What happens if he hasn't got a knife? What happens if there's 5 more of him round the corner? And all these things are going through your mind. We had the guy in New York substation jumped on that criminal, headlock. He ended up dying. He's been arrested for murder. So you're terrified of doing anything now to an ethnic minority in case you get called racist. And we're willing to die to do something.
And it's not just anything. Self-defense has become something that you are afraid to do.
Yeah.
And it's because the system is so rigged in favour of one against another. So anyway, of all the people to speak to Mizzy and discuss why he does the things he does, of course it was Piers Morgan. Britain's premier buffoon, who frankly just embarrassed himself talking to Mizzy, which is just, again, just the last... Piers Morgan, to me, like I was saying before we started, is just the sign that our civilization has totally run out of any vitality. Like, Piers just has no idea why Mizzy just completely rejects the moral framework that he has and doesn't care and appears totally remorseless. Let's play the first clip.
What has been motivating you to terrorise the people around where you live? Why do it?
I wouldn't really call it terrorising, I'll just call it more having fun. But let's get this out of the way first. I apologise. You see this situation that blew up on the internet, the walking into random houses? The next day, I apologised to the woman because I felt bad, innit? Like, deeper than social media. Like, it went deeper than social media. That's why I didn't record it. She recorded me apologising to her. I told her sorry, and she explained that she was terrified because her children were in the house. And I understood
What were you doing in the house?
What was I doing in the house? I don't know. It was a stupid video. Like, I got peer pressured to say it. I don't want to say it like in that way, but...
Well, somebody else's fault.
I'm not blaming it on no one else.
I mean, you break into a house with a woman and a husband and two young kids.
I went into the house on my own accord.
No, I'm just saying, okay, you went through their door, right? But it's not your house. You're not supposed to be in there.
Oh, no shit.
You are causing a lot of alarm to that poor woman and to her children who are in the house.
So you'll notice there, Piers goes, well, you were terrorising that woman. He's like, I wasn't terrorising her. I was just having fun. She told me she was terrified.
Yeah.
You were literally terrorising her. Doesn't care, is smirking about it, right? So don't think you can morally judge this person that in a way that he's going to accept. He doesn't care. He does not care. He is from a different moral paradigm. He's grown up in a totally different world. He is a complete product of social media, and he doesn't respect anything about us. That's what you've got to understand. And he doesn't seem to be the best and brightest. I mean, the judge can say, oh, he's an intelligent young man, but I'm not sure he is. Let's watch this next clip.
You go up and you do these things. You take a dog from an elderly woman. You leapfrog over the top of an Orthodox Jewish man standing at the side of the road minding his own business. You go up to women in the street and say, do you want to die?
It wasn't a woman, it was a man. And she even
There were also women that you did this to.
There was maybe a woman there, but I only say it to the man.
Right. You shouldn't be saying it to anybody.
Fair enough, but
why, in the name of so-called prankster humour, why cause so much alarm and distress to so many people? Do you get your kicks out of doing that?
Not necessarily, but you could say that this whole public outroar just makes me laugh because people are getting hurt over something that didn't happen to them. And that's how I see it as.
What do you mean?
People are getting hurt over something that didn't happen to them. Everyone acts like they have this persona like they don't care, social media is a facade, this, that and the other. But when me comes out and does the mad thing, everyone has something to say.
So he doesn't really seem to understand hypothetical conditionals, as in what would be the case if something had happened, and he was just like, well, it didn't happen to them. Yeah, I know, but they're thinking this could have been me.
He's not even thinking that. He's been in this situation dozens and dozens of times. If you replace Piers Morgan with head teachers, probation officers, police officers, he's sat across them dozens of times, making excuses and trying to defend his actions. And that's all he's doing now. This is how he reacts to a headmaster role model speaking to him like that.
But the content of what he said there I find interesting, because when Piers is like, well, you know, how would it feel? He's just like, but it didn't happen to them. It's like, yeah, I know. We know that it didn't happen to these people, but it could happen to these people because you were actively out there doing it. And so you were essentially a threat to the concept of justice in this country. And it didn't happen to them. It's like, that's not how thinking works. You know,
It's also it's a lack of empathy.
oh, totally.
But
I mean, I was going to get to that.
If he had empathy, he wouldn't be doing these tricks in the first place.
But empathy is based on a conditional hypothetical. What if that was me? You know, you have to put yourself in someone else's position, and he can't. You know, and I'm okay. I mean, perhaps he's just not smart enough. Perhaps he's just been habituated in the wrong way. But as you say, totally devoid of empathy. Won't put himself in another person's position. And this is the worldview of this kind of underclass, this multicultural, you know, this separate, weird culture that sprung up, and he's representative of them. So it's like, right, okay.
He doesn't see them as his group.
No, not at all.
Do you ever feel sympathy for the chickens you eat?
Not very much.
There we go. And that's exactly how he sees those other parts of the population as chickens.
Yes. And he knows that they're unarmed. He knows that they're not going to do anything because they'll lose their jobs, blah, blah, blah. And so he doesn't care about them at all. He can't understand why he should care about them. You know, saying, well, what if this happened? Yeah, but it didn't happen. Yeah, but that's not the answer to what if this happened. You know, to say that it didn't happen is not the answer to the what if conditional. But anyway, he does have one form of morality that I find very amusing. Let's watch.
No, it's not mad, it's moronic. It's the kind of thing anybody could do, and you do it for kicks and you do it for clicks, and you get your little moment on TikTok, and presumably your peer group that you referenced earlier, they all think, good on you, Mizzy, this is hilarious. Meanwhile, some poor woman thinks you've stolen her dog and is traumatised. Another woman has her 2 kids and you're bursting into their house uninvited.
All right.
You're jumping on Jewish people.
See, I was
right,
jumping
who are
on
already...
Jewish people. Hold up, wait a minute, no, stop.
You did.
Cool, it was a Jewish person, cool. But there was a trend going around on TikTok called 300. I've done this to numerous people, black people, white people, Asian, any types of people. I don't discriminate. So don't stop saying Orthodox Jewish person like I only targeted him and it was only him that I went for.
Oh, wow. He's not a racist.
That's because the Victimhood Olympics just kicked in then.
But it's also, that's the only moral standard that he recognises, the overarching diversity and inclusion moral standard. Like, it doesn't matter what he does to these people. He admits, oh no, I just went around terrorising, you know, black people, white people, Jewish people, whoever, right? I terrorised this old woman, I made her afraid for her life. And when Piers Morgan says you traumatised her, he's like, it's like, doesn't matter. But I wasn't being a racist.
Yeah.
I wasn't discriminating, bro. As if that would be, everything's justified then. Don't worry about it. Free to go. Mental. Absolutely mental that's the moral standard. He terrorises people for a joke, but he's not a racist.
And I can't believe Piers Morgan just said to him, you only did this for views and clicks.
Well, duh.
It's like,
Well, you
Piers Morgan?
Yeah, what have you got him on now?
Exactly.
You know, Christ. But the point is, Mizzy doesn't seem to have any remorse and doesn't really understand what the concept of remorse is. But then if he doesn't understand what empathy is, he doesn't understand what a hypothetical conditional is, why would he understand what remorse is? Let's watch.
Why are you targeting anybody in that
What
manner?
do you mean, why am I targeting anyone? It was a trend. It was a trend. I just done it for a trend.
What's the trend? What's the trend?
300, jump over someone at the time of the beat.
However much you scare them.
However much you scare them.
Or even if you push them into a car.
No, that didn't happen though, because I saw.
It didn't happen by chance.
It didn't happen, but it didn't happen.
A lot of the stuff that you do could have consequences far more serious. But you don't care, do you? As long as you get a laugh.
I have remorse for all of these
things. You don't have any remorse.
What do you mean I don't have any remorse? How are you trying to tell me?
You have no remorse.
Are you in my life? Do you live in my life?
Right. So, again, doesn't understand the what-if conditional. You could have knocked someone into a car, but I didn't. Okay, Mizzy, what did you have for breakfast yesterday? But the point is, people who are remorseful actually don't act in this manner.
Yeah.
They actually say, oh no, what I did was wrong. I didn't realise it was having an effect on people. But he was like, yeah, you're scaring people. I was like, yeah, you're not remorseful over that. You know,
because they're not his people.
Exactly. And there's no punishment for him doing it. You know, there's nothing, you know, he's not going to feel any pain for having done all of this, right? Like, but it's just fascinating how repeatedly he just can't understand what Piers is saying. Like, it's just totally out. What do you mean? I didn't push anyone into a car. No. But when you push the man into the road, a car could have hit me, but it didn't. But that's not the answer to that. You know, it doesn't follow. But then, and as you say, I mean, we may as well get to the victimhood hierarchy because he knows that exists. Let's watch.
What's so bad about your life that makes you do
my whole
this?
life, innit? I just do it for fun. On or off camera, I do my thing.
Tell me about your life. What justifies this?
What do you mean
What's
tell me
happened
about
to
my
you that makes you think you're justified in doing this?
What do you mean tell me about my life?
Well, you said
trying
you
to
know
get
nothing
onto me
about
because
your
I'm
life.
black?
Tell me about your
Is it
life.
because you're trying to get onto me because I'm black? Because I guarantee if
Because
there was
you're
a white
black?
person, yeah, I guarantee if
I
there was
don't
a
give
white
a
person,
damn about your skin colour.
Really?
No.
Piers,
Why would I
really,
care what colour your skin is? I just think you're an idiot.
Oh, thank you. I think you're an idiot too.
That's fine. You're perfectly entitled to.
Yeah, so are you. So
this
like,
show's
fine.
called Uncensored. I think you're an idiot for what you've been doing.
Okay.
I also think you're an idiot for playing the race card when no one's mentioned your
really?
skin colour.
Really? Okay, you don't have to mention it to...
I don't care about your skin colour,
Aight.
Mizzy.
You can see the grin on his face there because he's totally reversed the dynamic.
Yeah.
Now Mizzy is interrogating Piers Morgan. Piers, you're just a racist. I'm not a racist. How dare you say that? This is why I'm not. Piers, you're a moron. You're an absolute moron, right? You could just want, so you're going full Ali G then, are you? And he wouldn't have known who that was and he would have just looked stupid, right? But Piers goes into virtue signaling mode, which is insufferable. And instead he could have just reversed it and go, well, what, are you saying that you do it because you're black? And he would be like, no. And I'd be like, okay, great. Why'd you bring it up? And suddenly the whole thing would have been diffused. He would have seemed like he was just virtue signaling. But Piers is just completely out to lunch and just like, oh no, don't think I'm a racist. Don't think I'm a racist. Piers, why do you need his approval? He is the terrorist on your show that is completely disconnected from our moral systems. And suddenly you're looking for his approval by going, I'm not a racist. I'm not a racist.
Because he's bought in. Piers Morgan's bought into all this woke nonsense. He pretends he
Completely.
hasn't, but he has.
Completely. It's just, but he's such a dunce. So it's just like, okay, Piers, you absolute raging buffoon.
And Mrs. used this before. Like I said, can you imagine if you was 18 years old being put on national TV?
It wouldn't have been me doing this.
Would you have been able to be as composed
No.
as Mizzy is?
Because he's, as you say, he's been through this.
He's been through this
times.
hundreds of times.
Yeah.
He knows the cards to pull. He knows what to say. He knows how to not answer a question by going, but no one got hurt.
Yeah.
There was no car.
Yeah.
He knows how to end questions because he's well practiced at this.
Yeah. Anyway, but Mizzy finally, in this interview, gets to the part that I'm just so happy he just delivered to us as a gift, actually. Because, as I said in the live stream, I actually don't hate Mizzy, right? I don't view Mizzy as like an agent, right? I don't view him as the author of his actions. Because like I said, well, it was a trend. Yeah, because like some young, 18-year-old Zoomer type, he's grown up on in one of his videos, he said, I've been on social media since I was 8 years old. Yeah, exactly. He doesn't remember a world before social media. All of his validation is virtual. This comes, as Piers points, from the clicks. And he is just someone who is buffeted along on the trends, like a leaf on the wind. He's just blown around and he doesn't know why he's doing it. And he was like, well, peer pressure is what he called it. It's like, yeah, because he just doesn't know. He can't help himself. He's got no way of resisting these things. And so he is just a creature of this environment. And also the environment in which he's in is a kind of multicultural bubble where we've said, no, this is a protected class. This is a special, unique culture that the sort of, the mainstream culture, we'd be racist if we were to be, telling them right from wrong. And so he just comes out and totally says what we all know. And everyone got angry about him for this. Let's watch.
All right.
I care about the fact that you've been terrorising all these people for a sustained period of time. I also care about the fact you've only got a tiny fine today, no deterrent to you whatsoever. You don't show any real remorse. You don't really care, do you?
The UK laws are weak, simple as. And that's the UK laws are weak, simple as, and that's not my fault. That's not my fault. Like in America...
What do your family make of what you've been doing?
Right, so Piers misses so much here because he's so dumb. You notice say, well, in America, and then Piers buffoonishly cuts him off, right? Because Mizzy was actually about to make a point about UK laws. That's true. That we can all see, and that we all have to labour under, that for him, the laws are weak. Now, as we were saying just before the podcast, for people like us, the laws are very strong. If you were to call Mizzy the N-word or something, you'd be in jail. If you were to run a podcast where you said such things, you'd be in jail. But for Mizzy, the laws are very, very weak because, as you can see, we live in a two-tiered system. Ethnic minorities get special privileges. People who are not ethnic minorities do not get these privileges. And he knows this, which is why he mentioned his skin colour. He knows. that this is a lever that he can pull in order to gain access to these privileges. He knows this, right? He weaponizes this against Piers, which works because Piers is weak to this. He's like, I'm not racist. I'm not racist. Suddenly Mizzy is the inquisitor here. And then he just goes, well, UK laws are weak. And it's like, yeah, they are. To him, they are completely weak. And he's not a moral agent in the way that you expect morality to be transacted. And so he goes, well, look, I'm going to just go as far as I can, as much as I can, and you're not going to stop me. It's like, okay, well, whose fault is this? It's not really his fault. He grew up in this environment. He's just a product of the environment. You know, he's the product of a broken home. He's the product of the unbelievable permissiveness when it comes to violence and intimidation that we have. So the fault really does lie with us. You know, Mizzy is essentially saying here, no, why aren't I being flogged? That's what he's saying. You are weak because you are not flogging me. And so I don't care what you have to say. You're not strong. You're not going to punish me. I'm going to do what I like until you flog me. This is what he's saying. And this is his moral view. Now what?
There's something he said that no one seems to have picked up on when he said the UK law's weak. Why would you refer to the country you live in as UK law? You refer to it
That's
as
a great point.
the law, our law. The law's rubbish in this country.
Yeah.
This conversation, you've never said the UK law's weak. It's because you
good
don't
point.
have to use the word
I spoke
UK.
from within the frame of our.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a
And
great
because, and so he doesn't see, like quite a lot of people like him, he doesn't see the UK as his. He sees it as just a place where he lives at the moment, probably.
Well, that's exactly the point, isn't it? He's got no attachments to this place. And that's why he was making comparisons to other countries. He was about to make a comparison to America. Because he's like literally well in America and then Piers just bulldozes over him. But yeah, that's exactly right. He doesn't see himself as being from this place. And in fact, we'll in fact in a couple of clips time we'll get into that, exactly that, because you're exactly right. So a lot of people are like, well, this is very clearly fatherless behaviour. Obviously.
Yeah.
Let's watch.
What did my family make? Well, I don't chat to my mum anymore. And
Why not?
Why not? Because I just don't talk to her. It's irrelevant to you, but I just don't chat to her, innit? And what else? My sisters are calm, but like obviously they don't fully commend what I do, but...
Do any of your family condemn what you do?
No, of course not. Like obviously...
They think it's all perfectly normal?
No, there's certain videos that they'll be like, no, you can't be doing that. Like especially just walking into the random houses one. Certainly not. But that was more of a spur of the moment thing. I just got egged on and my ego got a hold of me. And I realised that at that moment, and that's why I went to apologise the next day. After it all blew up out of proportion, and I felt like bad, personally.
I don't think you felt bad.
So you see there, no mention of a father.
And doesn't speak to his mother.
Yeah. What do your family think of this?
Yeah.
Well, my mum, yeah, but that's not what a young man would
Yeah.
first go to be honest. You know, you would be like, well, my father was very annoyed and he gave me a thrashing. But of course, this never happened. And his mother, like he says, doesn't speak to her.
Yeah.
And when he's like, do your family condemn you? Of course not. That's very interesting. I would like to see what Mizzy's mum has to say. Would she say, yeah, no, he's in the wrong there? Or would she say, he's my son and I don't care, right or wrong?
I would imagine she would say he's wrong, hence why they don't speak.
Quite possibly. But she apparently, you know, there's the occasional thing that he does that she disapproves of, but you know, and maybe that is the case. Maybe that is the case. But as you can see, fatherless problems. But
Yeah.
again, everyone's angry at Mizzy, and don't get me wrong, I totally find him despicable. But he is a product of his environment. He is like in a way, actually, Mizzy is kind of a rational response to the circumstances in which he finds himself. Because Mizzy doesn't understand the civilization he lives in. He doesn't relate to it. He doesn't feel like he's a part of it. As far as from his perspective, it looks like it's a prison. You know, I'm in this giant glass and steel jungle where there are all these strange people who I don't get, but are afraid of these things. I can push these buttons and I get these responses. And it's funny. But like, otherwise, he's just a kind of lost child wandering in the woods. You know, none of this is his. He doesn't feel like it belongs to him, right? And this is why he's doing what he's doing. Because he's just like, well, I mean, I've got to earn some money. What am I going to do? Get a job? Well, who's going to employ him? What education do you think he's got?
Yeah.
You know?
Little.
So let's watch the next one.
Why there's no real remorse here? Why do
there's
you not
no real
understand
remorse? What do you mean why
what
there's
the
no real remorse?
consequences of your
I went
actions
to go
have been?
apologise off social media. I could have recorded that apology and that would have been another viral video. Whether it's hate or whatever, literally, hate brings money, hate brings likes, hate brings views. It doesn't matter. Love or hate, it still brings views.
Why do you prefer to do the hateful stuff?
It's not like I prefer to do the hateful stuff. It's just like it's easier to do the hateful stuff.
Why are you laughing? You think
And
it's fun?
obviously, I don't think it's fun, but you're a funny person.
You do think it's funny?
He does think it's funny. I mean, obviously he thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
But he's completely open about it. I just do this for validation and money. Brings hate, it doesn't matter whether it's hate clicks or, people who enjoy what he does. It's still popularity, attention from social media. Because none of the people around him, he doesn't have a community around him, right? He's got all of these ties are severed, but he's got the connection to the internet and he's getting all of the validation he needs from his screen.
That's his community.
He is like a child of the internet, lost in London in a civilization he doesn't understand and doesn't really care for, right? He doesn't respect in any way, shape or form. And he says repeatedly, oh, it's a movement. It's like, okay, what kind of movement? Well, he'll explain it.
I think it's just really funny.
At the time, I think it's funny. My fan base thinks it's funny, and it's we outside, innit? It's a movement. But
What's the movement? What's the movement?
Deep down, being free and not letting anyone tell you nothing. That's why I can do all of this stuff. I'm the most hated person on the internet right now.
No, you're not. Most people don't know who you are.
Okay then, whatever you say, innit? Whatever you say.
Most people watching this will have never heard of you and care
Whatever you
even
say,
less.
well, now they are. You just brought it to me. Now they are.
They'll just
Now
think,
are.
they'll
Now
just
they
look at the way you're
are.
behaving now and they'll think, yeah, he's a complete moron.
So nothing the people of this society thinks matters. All that matters is his fan base on the internet, which is, again, not an irrational thing for someone in his position to think. It's just not, right? But what he's trying to argue there is it's a movement for freedom. Okay, so why would you need freedom if you lived in a place that you thought was half decent? But he doesn't. He lives in the concrete jungle that feels like a prison. And so this movement for freedom is just him thinking, right, okay, I can make money, I can do what I like, no one can stop me, and I don't have to answer to anyone. Well, as an 18-year-old young man from a broken home, trapped in a concrete jungle that doesn't have any future, why wouldn't he do that?
Yeah.
Like this is the thing is though, this guy is like the end point of leftist philosophy. This is Rousseau Savage, who's got no connections to no ties, no bonds that bind him anywhere. And he's just a floating leaf on social trends until one day he'll eventually die and pass on and no one will remember him.
He's looking for meaning. He's looking for a role in life, and
I don't even know.
And he's found something. He's looking something for him to be proud of, and he's proud of the stuff he does.
Yeah.
It fills his time up. He gets validation for.
He gets money.
In 50 years ago, he'd have been talking about having a good job.
Yeah,
but that's gone now. So he's a lost man looking for meaning.
Possibly, but like. The thing is, I think that after, a decade or whatever of being on the internet and being habituated into this and this becoming his life, I don't even know if he is lost and looking for meaning. I think this is what he views as the reality, right? For him, this is real life and this is the way things are. And for everyone else is like a foreign species to him. He doesn't understand. He doesn't care. He's not interested in joining it. He is interested in making money and being free. It's like, okay, well, fair enough. That's like what we've created. Like I said, I'm not even angry at Mizzy because this to me is a fairly rational response to the ridiculous circumstances we have allowed to proliferate. Like in every other civilization, every other culture, you would have had bonds of society that bind you in a place and they would have been policed. You wouldn't be allowed to just do the things that Mizzy does. You'd be beaten, you'd be flogged, you'd be punished. You would feel pain at doing it. Your dad would kick your ass. Your mum would punish you. The state would punish you. But that's not Mizzy's experience. And we've permitted this to exist. So why be angry at him?
Exactly. He's been told all his life that every culture is his equal to anybody else's culture. And now he's decided, well, this is my culture.
Exactly. And in fact, let's watch this last clip.
But I'm curious, who in your family is there to tell you this
Why
is
do you need to
wrong?
go to my family? I'm my own person, so talk about me.
Because
not my
you
family.
don't-
No.
Because you don't-
Talk about me, not my family.
Yes, but here's the problem.
What's the problem?
You are clearly a product of your upbringing.
No, I'm not. I'm my own person. I've always been my own person.
You've had no one to tell you this is wrong.
Of course, people have told me it's wrong. Family, friends, everyone's told me it's wrong.
Who's told you it's
What
wrong?
do you mean? My own mother told me it's wrong. There's been situations between me and my mum where I
Right,
don't
so your
talk.
mother doesn't like what you're doing.
Of course, yeah.
So why don't you stop doing it?
Because
If my mother told me to stop doing something.
Okay,
I'd
and that's
stop
your
doing
mother.
it.
You listen to your mother. You listen to somebody else. I'm my own person. I'm legally an adult now, so I can do what I
What are you going to do now?
He's also don't forget, he's not typical. He's also a narcissist as well.
Obviously.
In this situation.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But you see exactly the point, though, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't like, as you say, all cultures are equal. Well, this is my culture. I'm a self-made man. I'm at year zero. I'm not a product of my environment. It's like, no, you're absolutely a product of your environment. The problem is the environment we allowed to be created. And the problem that everyone has with Mizzy is essentially that he was just honest about this. It's like, no, look, we created the system that encourages and facilitates this. He's just a symptom of the problem. The problem is us. We shouldn't be permitting this. He should have been flogged 1,000,000 times. And the first 5 times, he'd be like, right, okay, I'm just not going to do that. Because he doesn't have morality as you understand it. He respects strength. And he says to us, you're just not strong. You're not going to punish me for these things. So I'm just going to keep doing them. And to be honest with you, I probably would have done the same as a young man myself. You know? And so, but well, of course, I would have got a beating. He deserves a beating, isn't going to get one. Right? And so you won't stop him from being what he is in the way that we do now. Piers Morgan being like, oh, you should be morally ashamed. He's not ashamed of anything. Piers. I mean, we'll leave it there.
Yeah. Well, my last point, we've made our society so weak in the attempt to make it peaceful that we've now become, we're just not dangerous.
No, and we've allowed this dangerous subculture to flourish.
Yeah.
And in fact, Mizzy is like the least objectionable example of it.
Yeah.
He hasn't stabbed anyone. You know, he's just been pranking people by making them afraid.
Exactly. He's just a symptom of that.
Yeah.
The best metaphor I can give is there used to be islands with dodo birds on them.
Yes.
And those dodos were not used to any predators.
Yep.
And when predators finally turn up, because predators will always turn up eventually, they were wiped out because they couldn't defend themselves.
Yep.
And that's what our country's becoming now. We don't seem to be able to defend ourselves at all.
Yep. Exactly right.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content on the website, such as the Epoch series, this episode on the life of Lenin. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.